The International Election Observer Mission has commended the BVI on its peaceful and fair election, stating that the election met key international standards. However, according to the Election Observer's preliminary report, the 2015 general election was dominated by excessive negative rhetoric. Stephen Rothern, head of the Election Observer Mission, presented the preliminary findings at a press conference on June 10th. He said the election campaign was peaceful and vibrant and saw high levels of public engagement, but added that many residents said the 2015 campaign was the most negative they had ever witnessed.
Consisting of personal attacks and accusations, criticisms and allegations of past performance of opponents, and inflammatory and defamatory rhetoric, rather than a positive discussion of the major political issues. The Virgin Islands is perhaps not unique in that regard. However, with a proliferation of partisan politics, the stakeholders we met certainly noted a heightened divisiveness of the campaign, both for society at large and indeed within families.
The Observer Mission said it was notified that at the end of the June 5th advance polling day, the process in relation to placing and sealing ballots into envelopes was not performed in the majority of the polling stations. The mission said there was a clear failure by some returning officers to follow correct procedures resulted in a breach of Section 49(1) of the Elections Act.
The mission was notified that the closing process in relation to placing and sealing ballots into envelopes was not performed in the majority of the polling stations. Not placing the ballots into separate packets is in breach of Section 49(1) of the Elections Act. This resulted in reinforcing the perception by some parties of ballot tampering by election officials. I do stress the word perception. This resulted, there was a clear failure by some returning officers to follow correct procedures. And this was further compounded by the fact that most candidates and agents present failed to identify and raise this erroneous process in a timely manner. And this is despite being given a candidate and agent's handbook, which has the procedures clearly set out, and indeed having had an advance briefing before the election.
While the 6-member observer team observed that the district and territorial counts were transparent and well administered, it regarded the transfer of territorial ballot boxes to the central counting venue at the Sir Rupert Briarcliff Hall as an unnecessary delay to the start of the count, beginning around 11 p.m. on Monday, June 8th, and ending in the afternoon of June 9th.
Both the district and territorial counts observed by the missions were transparent and well administered, despite the length of procedure to read out the names and show each ballot to all present. A positive aspect of this process is that it leaves little room for error, and in the case of a close result, precludes any reason for a recount due to the clarity and decisiveness of everyone seeing each ballot. And this speaks well for the territory, because we observe that during the counts there was a lot of cordial and collegiate attitude by both the agents on the part of the NDP and the VIP. The mission commends the relatively low level of rejected ballots, further proving the effectiveness of voter education and the diligent and clear explanation provided to every voter by the presiding officer. However, the decision to wait for all territorial ballot boxes to be transported or transferred to a central location was time-consuming and led to an unnecessary delay to the start of the count, beginning at 9 o'clock and finishing the following afternoon, I believe, at 2 in the following afternoon. At 11 o'clock, yes, I'm sorry, at 11 o'clock, and finishing the following afternoon.
Within 2 months of the election, the mission will publish its final report, which will provide an overall assessment of the electoral process and may include recommendations for future elections in the Virgin Islands.